The questions that have been asked so far in this debate illustrate why the American people don't trust the media. And you look at the questions. Donald Trump, are you a comic book villain? Ben Carson, can you do math? John Kasich, will you insult two people over here? Marco Rubio, why don't you resign? Jeb Bush, why have your numbers fallen? How about talking about the substantive issues people care about?
And welcome back. GOP presidential contenders moving now to wrestle control over the debate process from the Republican National Committee, and the networks hosting the events like the one you saw there with Ted Cruz. So this after the partisan train wreck we all witnessed on CNBC Wednesday night. Reports say the campaign will push the RNC to the sidelines, which until this point has been negotiating the terms of each debate with the networks. Going forward, the RNC will continue to be involved in debate operations, campaigns advisors say, such as media credentialing and ticket sales, but will not take the lead in what is seen as the slightly more important matter of negotiating the formats of the debates and moderators themselves. Ben Carson's campaigns manager, he sums it up thusly. They'll continue to do logistics and all that kind of stuff, but they're a partner. They're not our boss. That comes from Barry Bennett, Carson's campaign manager. The news comes as CNBC moderator John Harwood is unrepentant, despite being called in many circles, and we're including liberal ones here, and we're just paraphrasing, by the way, the most partisan and dishonest moderator in televised debate history. No matter, here's what the total self-aware Harwood had to say on the Twitter earlier today. Let's get it up, shall we? The CNBC debate was an ugly, raucous debate. We need more just like it. So, apparently, despite all the criticism in the world, he's still saying that, hey, what went wrong? All right, so do you think the next GOP debate will be fair, given all these parameters? Else?
Fair? It'll be boring. It'll be wimpy. Listen, I understand, Joe, that complaining about the media echoes with a certain part of the base. Whining really works with those people.
Do you believe there's bias in the media?
But in the long run, I will say this, it is a mistake for politicians to complain about questions from the media. It makes you look weak, it makes you look like you can't be a president, and I promise you, whoever is elected is going to face a White House press corps that's going to ask some gotcha questions. Grow a pair, all of you.
Wow.
All of you.
A pair of ears
Toughen
he's talking
up.
about, by the way.
Has President Obama had gotcha questions for his 8 years in office from this press?
Absolutely. You've
Maybe
never been in the White House press room?
So
Maybe from Ed Henry.
Every single day.
Okay, so objectively,
every day.
if you looked at a George W. Bush any press conference, is there a difference? Is there a tangible difference versus Barack Obama?
No.
So there's no difference from the White House press corps and how they treated George Bush and Barack Obama.
As someone who's covered politics for almost 30 years, I've never met a politician who didn't think he was being asked unfair questions. The challenge in public life is to learn how to handle them, turn it back, to win, to do what a couple of those guys did very effectively.
You know what was great about that debate, though, is single-handedly that brought the GOP together. We've been such a divided party for so long, but that was the one thing. I say, great, thank you, CNBC. Thank you very much, because it finally gave us all something to fight against as one, and it made my guy look like a presidential candidate.
That's what was impressive about Cruz's rant, because most debate zingers, they're practiced, right? With who was it, Benson with Quayle, right?
Absolutely.
John F. Kennedy is a friend of mine. He was so ready for Quayle to bring up the fact that he has more experience than JFK.
And
he was ready for it.
And Marcos hit on Bush was the same way.
Yeah, Marcos, exactly.
Newt
But with
Gingrich
Cruz,
last
he actually, and Cruz didn't say you're treating me unfairly, you're treating us unfairly. And he rails off 4 things that were said during that debate, which you couldn't have possibly
And the crowd
practiced.
went wild.
And it went wild, right? But to Ellis's point, okay, during the nomination process, I think it does score you some points, and you see Cruz jumping in the polls, because that's what a lot of Republicans feel, that it's us against the world, and particularly the media. But in the general, I agree with you that if you start complaining then you're going to look weak. So now smart, maybe later not so smart.
Right.
It works with the base. No, I agree with you. There is clearly in the Republican base an audience for whining about the media. But I just think in the long run, it just doesn't help you, and they ought to avoid it.
Do you think there's a bias in the media, or you think it's an imagined up thing by conservatives?
Listen, there are some professions.
Oh, yes or no? Yes or no?
So, well, I'm going to give you some context, because it's not so. There are some professions that tend to attract conservative people, right? Law enforcement, the clergy, the military. I would say the media is a profession where open-minded, free-thinking, more liberal people would be drawn to. Yeah, it makes a little bit of sense, sure.
I've seen polls where something like 90% of those in the media that have been polled privately and anonymously say, yeah, I vote.
So we should have the Republican debate should be on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, maybe the
Rush
Savage
Limbaugh.
Nation, maybe can handle one, GBTV,
But you know what,
and they wouldn't have to hear anything they disagreed with ever.
But if you want to talk about open-minded and fairness and free thinking, well, you would get savage attacks on many of these candidates from those very people. On
Michael
our
Savage
side.
attacks, or just Savage in terms of an adjective?
Savage and Savage Nation.
okay.
You would get deep-rooted policy questions, much more from a conservative
substantive
moderation.
ones. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
But they would be fair.
They would be actually, I think, harder
If
to
Harwood
answer.
says that it's not fair, if Savage said it would be fair.
I mean, some of these questions, fantasy football, give me a break. Come on.
Handle it.
You wouldn't see questions
Tough.
like that from a.
But one thing
running
though
for
that
president.
I don't think that Cruz was whining. I think what Cruz was doing was he was actually trying to elevate himself in effect, because he was saying, look, I'm not like Jeb Bush, I'm not like Marco Rubio, I'm not like Trump, but I feel for all of these guys, and I'm going to stand up for every one of them and say what every single Republican or conservative who's watching this is thinking. And that's one of the reasons why Trump has been so successful, because he says kind of what you're thinking in the back of your mind, but you're a little uncomfortable saying.
And it's not about dealing with it. It's just about the fact of they want a chance to get their policies out. They don't want to be asked about fantasy football because it's a dumb question.
Right, and there was too much editorializing going on. Harwood could ask the questions that he did, but then don't compare the GOP frontrunners campaign to a comic book. Because then that dilutes the water completely, and then the next day all we're talking about is media bias instead of, I have no idea what anybody's stance is. You know, in terms of taxes, in terms of economy, everything that was supposed to be discussed, we're not talking about that. We're talking about John Harwood.
The reality television star is complaining about dumb questions.
But
I love it. I think it's great.
You can be adversarial.
He's trying to be a politician now.
It's great.
You can be adversarial without being vitriolic and angry and bitter.
Okay, we'll end it on that non-bitter note. Do you believe the next GOP debate will be fair? Feeling it might be a little bit more fair. We'll see. Go to newsmaxtv.com/comments. Voice your opinion. More Daily Wrap in just a moment.